Epaphroditus, Short Papers, by C.H. Mackintosh. We want the reader to turn with us to Philippians 2 and study the brief sketch of the interesting character of Epaphroditus. There is great moral beauty in it. And study the brief sketch of the interesting character of Epaphroditus. There is great moral beauty in it. We are not told very much about him, but in what we are told, we see a great deal of what is truly lovely and pleasant, much that makes us long for men of the same stamp in this our day. We cannot do better than quote the inspired record concerning him. And may the blessed Spirit apply it to our hearts, and lead us to cultivate the same lovely grace which shone so brightly in that dear and honored servant of Christ. I suppose it necessary, says the blessed apostle, to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. For he longed after you all, and was full of heaviness, because that ye had heard that he had been sick. For indeed he was sick nigh to death, but God had mercy on him, and not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. I sent him therefore the more carefully, that when ye see him again, ye may rejoice, and that I may be the less sorrowful. Receive him therefore in the Lord with all gladness, and hold such in reputation, because for the work of Christ he was nigh to death, not regarding his life to supply your lack of service toward me. Phil 2:25-30. Now it is quite possible that some of us, on reading the above, may feel disposed to inquire if Epaphroditus was a great evangelist or teacher, or some highly gifted servant of Christ, seeing the inspired apostle bestows upon him so many high and honorable titles, styling him his brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier. Well, we are not told that he was a great preacher or a great traveler or a profound teacher in the church of God. All we are told about him in the above touching narrative is that he came forward in a time of real need to supply a missing link, to fill a gap, as we say. The beloved Philippians had it upon their hearts to send help to the revered, an aged apostle Paul in his prison at Rome. He was in need, and they longed to supply his need. They loved him, and God had laid it upon their loving hearts to communicate with his necessities. They thought of him, though he was far away from them, and they longed to minister to him of their substance. How lovely was this! How pleasing to the heart of Christ! Hearken to the glowing terms in which the dear old prisoner speaks of their precious ministry. But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly. But now at the last your care of me has flourished again, wherein ye were also careful, but ye lacked opportunity. Notwithstanding, ye have well done that ye did communicate with my affliction. Now, ye Philippians, know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but ye only. For even in Thessalonica ye sent once and again to my necessity. Not because I desire a gift, but I desire fruit that may abound to your account. But I have all and abound. I am full, having received of Epaphroditus the things from you, an odor of a sweet smell, a sacrifice acceptable, well-pleasing to God. Philippians 4:10-14-18. Here we see the place which Epaphroditus filled in this blessed business. There lay the beloved apostle in his prison at Rome. And there lay the loving offering of the saints at Philippi. But how was it to be conveyed to him? These were not the days of banks' checks and post office money orders. No, nor of railway traveling. It was no easy matter to get from Philippi to Rome in those days. But Epaphroditus, that dear, unpretending, self-surrendering servant of Christ, presented himself to supply the missing link, to do the very thing that was needed. And nothing more, to be the channel of communication between the assembly at Philippi and the apostle at Rome. Deep and real as was the apostle's need, precious and seasonable as was the Philippians' gift, yet an instrument was needed to bring them both together. And Epaphroditus offered himself for the work. There was a manifest need and he filled it. He did not aim at doing some great showy thing, something which would make him very prominent and cause his name to be blazed abroad as some wonderful person. No, Epaphroditus was not one of the pushing, self-confident, extensive class. He was a dear, self-hiding, lowly servant of Christ, one of that class of workmen to whom we are irresistibly attracted. Nothing is more charming than an unpretending, retiring man who is content just to fill the empty niche, to render the needed service, whatever it is, to do the work cut out for him by the master's hand. There are some who are not content unless they are at the head and tail of everything. They seem to think that no work can be rightly done unless they have a hand in it. They are not satisfied to supply a missing link. How repulsive are all such, how we retire from them. Self-confident, self-sufficient, ever pushing themselves into prominence. They have never measured themselves in the presence of God, never been broken down before Him, never taken their true place of self-abasement. Epaphroditus was not of this class at all. He put his life in his hand to serve other people. And when at death's door, instead of being occupied with himself or his ailments, he was thinking of others. He longed after you all and was full of heaviness, not because he was sick, but because he had heard that he had been sick. Here was true love. He knew what his beloved brethren at Philippi would be feeling when informed of his serious illness, an illness brought on by his willing-hearted service to them. All this is morally lovely. It does the heart good to contemplate this exquisite picture. Epaphroditus had evidently studied in the school of Christ. He had sat at the Master's feet and drunk deeply into his spirit. In no other way could he have learned such holy lessons of self-surrender and thoughtful love for others. The world knows nothing of such things. Nature cannot teach such lessons. They are altogether heavenly, spiritual, divine. Would that we knew more of them. They are rare among us with all our high profession. There is a most humiliating amount of selfishness in all of us, and it looks so hideous in connection with the name of Jesus. It might agree well enough with Judaism, but its inconsistency with Christianity is terribly glaring. Notice the very touching manner in which the inspired apostle commends Epaphroditus to the assembly at Philippi. It seems as if he could not make enough of him to speak after the manner of men. He longed after you all, and was full of heaviness, because that ye had heard that he had been sick. For indeed he was sick nigh to death. But God had mercy on him, and not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. How deeply affecting! What a tide of divine affection and sympathy rolled in upon that unpretending, self-sacrificing servant of Christ. The whole assembly at Philippi, the blessed apostle, and above all, God himself, all engaged in thinking about a man who did not think about himself. Had Epaphroditus been a self-seeker, had he been occupied about himself or his interests, or even his work, his name would never have shone on the page of inspiration. But no, he thought of others, not of himself. Therefore God and his apostle and his church thought of him. Thus it will ever be. A man who thinks much of himself saves others the trouble of thinking about him. But the lowly, the humble, the modest, the unpretending, the retiring, the self-emptied, who think of and live for others, who walk in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, these are the persons to be thought of and cared for, loved, and honored as they ever will be by God and his people. I sent him therefore the more carefully, says the beloved apostle, that when ye see him again ye may rejoice, and that I may be the less sorrowful. Receive him therefore in the Lord with all gladness, and hold such in reputation. Because for the work of Christ he was nigh to death, not regarding his life. To supply your lack of service toward me, Phil, 2:28-30. Thus it was with this most dear and honored servant of Christ. He did not regard his life, but laid it at his master's feet, just to supply the missing link between the church of God at Philippi and the suffering and needy apostle at Rome. Therefore, the apostle calls upon the church to hold him in reputation, and the honored name of Epaphroditus has been handed down to us by the pen of inspiration, and his precious service has been recorded, and the record of it read by untold millions, while the names below was the names and the doings of the self-seekers, the self-important, the pretentious of every age, and every clime and every condition are sunk, and deservedly so, in eternal oblivion.